Good afternoon and welcome to the S.M.A.H Foundation's Career Readiness Expo. Today we'll be discussing resume writing and critiquing with Dujuan Fischer, the CEO of First Class Consulting. He is the president of First Class Consulting firm, and it is his personal goal to provide a solution that will remove the HR administrative burden and provide relief to leadership and its staff. Having over 10 years experience in the human resource field, along with obtaining a bachelor's in human resource development from Oakland University and a master's in human resource management from Central Michigan University, he's established a successful track record through knowledge of federal and state law regulations, legal compliance, human resources, labor relations, training and development. He has hands-on experience in the application of defined human resource management procedures to improve organizational leadership, proficient in developing, administering, reviewing, updating, and communicating policy manuals for standardized HR work. He's also well-versed in statistical analytical technique, software applications, accounting and payroll administration, as well as participating in several development dimensions, international training courses, becoming a certified DDI facilitator. So today we're going to go ahead and turn over the floor to Dujuan Fischer. But before we do that, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to put them in the chat and we'll address those questions either during or at the end, wherever they may fall in. Thank you so much for joining us today. And Dujuan, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that warm introduction. It brings me great pleasure and an honor to be a part of this particular expo, this Career Expo. So thank you all for inviting me. Again, I do not take this lightly. So hopefully I can shed some light on resume and critiquing. Please feel free, as Takara has mentioned, you can interrupt me at any time and I will address your questions. I'm going to present. I have a presentation that I'm going to present. Give me 1 second just to share my screen. All right. So hopefully you all can see my screen now. This is First Class. As it's already been mentioned that I am the owner and founder of First Class Consulting Firm. Here we are a PEO, we're a professional employer organization where basically small and mid-sized businesses will outsource the entire HR functionality to our company, and we will actually facilitate all of the work on their behalf. Resume, career building, talent acquisition, payroll, benefits, etc. is all of what we specialize in. But here on today, I'll be going over the basics of resume. So this is Resume Basics 101. So as we all know, the main purpose of a resume is really to get an interview. It is a front line to describing who you are. Before they see you, because some resumes don't have a picture, they're going to look at your resume, and you want to make sure your resume stand out. You want to give a small description of your resume and the work and experience that you have done. Definitely want to include your education, your qualification, any achievements, and special skills. Now, I'm going to mention throughout this presentation some myth busters. There is a lot of different comments and research, and a lot of people say certain things about your resume, but I'm going to expose it all because I don't want anyone to be afraid of creating a resume and not using the right words and etc. All right. So, of course, your resume can be used in the following ways: to network, including your career fairs. You submit your application, cover letter as well for any opening positions. To take it on an interview, to pass it out, even just to, especially if you're in college as well. Most colleges have like a student aid or student services where you can go and drop off your resume and ask if anyone knows of any positions that may qualify with your skill set. Of course, you have your different platforms, LinkedIn profile, Indeed, and etc. So when creating your resume, you want to have a reverse chronological order. All right. So you want to start your resume off in the newest or the current position, whether it's, 2021 on down. You never want to start your resume with your first job and then reverse the order in chronological order, meaning that it's 2018 starting up top and working your way all the way down to 2021. So you always want to have a reverse chronological order in your resume. All right. So again, as I just mentioned, it starts with the current experience and it goes through the time in a chronological order. Most employers prefer this resume format. This is an example of a chronological resume. Now, this is just an example that we created, but nevertheless, you have this information here. And as you can see, hopefully you guys can see my mouse. But this individual we have created where it has the education, his professional experience. Now, the professional experience is dealing with your work history. There's a fancier word for doing it, putting it on your resume. Some people just say work experience, or you definitely can put professional experience as well. But you can see it in chronological order, where he worked for the university, U.S. Department of Office Assistant from January 2011 to present. And then he drops back down from Target, where he started in 2008 through August of 2021. I'm sorry, 2011. As long as you have the month and the year, you don't have to worry about the specific date. All right. Even in the background checks, when you do move on to the next level and you're running your background checks, everyone knows that your dates may be off by a few days. Some people don't remember the exact date that they started, especially me, since I'm not old, but I'm still young. But my first job was back in 2006, so I can't remember the day I actually started working. I know that it was around this particular time frame, but so don't worry about giving them the exact date. As long as you have the month and the year, you will be fine. All right. So this is an example of a resume. Now, I want to go back real quick. I want everyone to take a really close look at how this resume is formatted. This is just multiple ways that you can format your resume. There's no right or wrong way to formatting your resume. It's really based upon your preference, okay? This is an example of something that's being creative. You can definitely put your picture here, your name, the title that you currently have, or what you have been known, or even the title that you may be seeking, whether it's HR director, manager, whether it's sales, whether it's engineering, whether it's accounting, no matter what it is, you can definitely put that in as your title. Again, this is just another format that you can use and utilize as it relates to your resume. Again, you have your education up top, and your education is going to be in reverse chronological order as well, meaning that it's going to start with the most current and going down to the latest. This individual, in this example, he just has experience. Again, there's no right or wrong way of putting the title, whether it's experience or even on the previous one, which was professional experience. So again, no right or wrong way. This is just a unique design that kind of catches an interviewer attention or a recruiter attention, because before you get to the interview, you have to go through the recruiter. This is one way of catching their attention. This is an example of an Indeed resume. Now, you really have to be very careful with this because Indeed, although your format may look like this, however, when you use Indeed and upload your resume, and it gives you the option to select private or public, when you select public, this is what your resume is going to turn into. Okay, so it doesn't look pretty like this, or even this. Oh, sorry, or this. But it turns it into this. Yes, it has the work history. It has the work history, has some of the information, but never, and it does have your education. If you scroll down to the next page, I only did a screenshot of this just due to the presentation and the timing. But Indeed codes your resume. What I mean by that is your email address is not the same email address as going to be located on your resume. Indeed takes a portion of it, they code it, and then it will say something at the end of @indeed.com. So if your resume, if your original email was 123resume, Indeed is going to put it as something like 123resume 456 @indeed.com. All right, so you want to be very careful because sometimes you have recruiters call and they'll ask for your resume. And if it's on Indeed, they'll ask for your email address. And if it's on Indeed, again, they don't see your full or your actual email address. They only see what's coded. Now, they do have your number in the city that you're located in, but all of the fanciness, it does not do it. However, if you select private, it forces the recruiter to download your resume. And when they download your resume, they'll see your resume look like this. So those are two little tricks that you guys can utilize. Again, there's not a right or wrong way. If you want your resume to stick out, you can definitely select the private, and it will force the recruiter to actually download your resume, or you can have it public. And public meaning that if you apply to the position, they don't have to download it to actually open up your resume, and it will look like this. Again, not a right or wrong. So your resume sections. Typically, this is a standard format that most people use. Maybe 90% of people use this format. And it may not always be in the same chronological order, but they're going to have personal information, which is your name, your address, email address, and the city or state that you're located in. The objective is optional, okay? Honestly, I think that this is somewhat pointless. That's my personal opinion, because some objectives is simply, I'm seeking employment at your company, you got a position open. Well, you're applying to the position, so you already know that their objective is to secure the job. There is no other objective when you're applying to a position. So me personally, I feel that this is a waste of space because the recruiters know, the managers know that your objective is to find a better job, to find a different job, or to seek employment. We know that. Your summary of qualifications, again, I think that is important to have. Your education is important to have. Work history, of course, your skill set, your voluntary experience. Again, I meant to put that as optional. If you don't have a lot of work history, especially if you're coming from high school, or if you're coming straight out of college and you never really had a summer job or anything of that nature, volunteer work and experience is definitely important because it adds to the meat of your resume. All right. I'm just going to pause just to make sure we don't have any comments. I want to make sure that I'm looking at everything. All right. Nope. All right. There we go. So again, volunteer work is important when you do not have a lot of work history or a lot of work experience. Your references is optional as well. I like to look at resume as a sales catcher. And what I mean by that is you want to have enough good information where if they needed additional information, whether they wanted to check your references, that they would reach out to you and call and say, hey, listen, we've been taking a look at your resume. We did see that your referrals were upon request, and we just want to see if you can send over 2 or 3 references that can, just co-sign with your experience and just see how you are as a overall employee or individual. So I like to not put my actual references on or attached to my actual resume. I always say it's optional, or not optional, based upon requests. So that is a little nugget there. You want to make sure that you are engaging in your resume and the presentation. And if you give everything, they won't need to call. You would never know where they stand, if they looked at your resume, where you at in the process, because not every ATS or application tracking system updates you at every stage of your process. So sometimes you, again, apply to the position. Sometimes you get a notification whether or not someone has reviewed your resume. Sometimes they'll update the comment of saying, we're reviewing it, it's in progress, we are moving you on to the next stage. Sometimes you don't get a notification until you've been dispositioned. In other words, you've been passed on, or you didn't get the opportunity to interview. So sometimes you would be dispositioned and you'll get a notification, but sometimes based on their system and their process, they won't even do that as well. So you be stuck. You have literally applied to multiple positions and it's been months and you never received any type of notification. But again, going back to the sections, this is very important. Again, you don't have to arrange it the way I set it up here. You can definitely tweak it and make it how you want. Just make sure that you have those key personal information, the summary, your education, work experience. Make sure you have those as your core. Your skills is good as well. Your awards and activities, again, that's optional, not necessary, but it is good to have. What I like to do, if I can't fit everything into my resume, what I'll do is I'll add it, the information in my cover letter, and I will begin to expound upon certain things that I've accomplished in my cover letter. But that's a whole nother topic and situation there. Give me 1 second. All right. I think we do have some comments. Dujuan, individual has gaps in their resume for 2 years due to pregnancy, illness. What would you just explain it on resume? No. When you have gaps in your resume, you do not need to explain it in your resume. However, it is good to explain it in your interview because some people may want to see that. I find that if you mention certain things within your cover letter, it will make your resume a lot cleaner. Now, hypothetically speaking, if you were off for 2 years due to a pregnancy or illness in your cover letter, you can definitely put some information of saying, hey, for the last 2 years, unfortunately, I suffered an illness, but during this particular time, it gave me an opportunity to become more focused. I took certain training classes. I read upon certain things. I connected with different individuals to make sure that my skill set is sharp. That's what you can do in your cover letter as well. But explaining it on your resume, I see no room or opportunity for you to explain it. Employers would ask. I deal with a lot of different employers. and assisting them. And me personally, when I was a recruiter for DTE, that was one of my first HR jobs. Was working as a recruiter for DTE Energy for about 1.5 years, 2 years. And wonderful experience, but I learned so much. And what they use, and again, that's interviewing, so I don't want to get into another person's topic or subject, because I know that's coming up. But as it relates to your resume, I think that it's very important that you use your cover letter to explain any gaps. And you just have to, I wouldn't say add fluff to it, but you have to make sure that in the midst of your break that you had, whether it was for school, to mention how you utilized your time to stay sharp, to stay engaged into the industry that you're applying for. I hope I answered your question. How long should the average resume be? That's a really good question. It really depends. If you have an executive position, I feel that your resume should be at least 2 pages, because it shows history. It shows a track record of what you've done. If you're applying for a position for being a plant worker, working for Chrysler, Ford, GM, and you're just looking to kind of get into that particular industry, I think that a page is good. Again, you don't, and I'm gonna mention this in our next few slides about the length of your resume and not necessarily listing all of your jobs. So I think it really just depends on the position that you're applying for. I think that if you are applying for a supervisor, any type of managerial roles, I think that a resume that's, and again, it really depends on your work history as well, because you could work at an industry or at a job for the last 10 years and you've moved up in the company. But even if you moved up in the company, what you want to do on your resume is, say you started working at a company in 2010, all right, and now it's 2021, and you've been with the company for almost 11 years now, but you started off as an associate employee, but you worked your way up from a team lead to a supervisor to a manager. Now you're in the accounting field. So you should actually list every stage on your resume. You should break it down. So for the first 2 years, from 2010 to 2012, I was an associate. This is what I did while I was an associate. However, I got promoted under the same company. And from 2012 to 2015, I worked as a supervisor. These are the duties and et cetera. And after, so many years of being in this role, I moved up. Now that shows progression. And a lot of employers want to see what you've done and how you utilize your time, because it takes a lot of money to recruit and retrain. So they want to make sure that they get a solid person that can really be beneficial to the company and to the team. When do you use a chronological and a functional resume? I believe 90% of employers want to, I'm gonna be honest with you all, when looking at resumes, and I'm gonna skip through some slides because I'm kind of talking about it right now. They literally spend anywhere from 30 seconds to a good minute of looking at your resume. And most people look at your title, okay? Now, when I was working at DTE and so many other companies that I worked for before starting my own company, we had goals. We had so many people that we had to bring in to pass and skill set. We had to headhunt. We had to do so many different things. But in the process of numbers, because it's really a numbers game, because if you have a goal of hiring 5, well, the recruiter literally has to interview maybe 10 or 15, really 30 people just to get the 5. It's really like a numbers game, because, and then if you call or schedule that many interviews, you probably made over 100 calls just to solidify 5 people, because even though you apply to the position, you have individuals who won't show up to the interview. I've seen it all. So knowing that they have to make 100 phone calls, probably just to find 5 people, or 50 phone calls to find 1 person, or 45 phone calls, it's time consuming. And they want to see what's your current position. They don't want to see what you started off with and then at the bottom. So I try to put and I recommend putting all of the meat, all of the important information up top. That way, because they may not scroll and read through every line. And that's just the reality of the industry. And it's unfortunate because sometimes at the bottom could really be some good information, but I recommend the reverse chronological order and setting up your resume, because they don't spend that much time. Especially if you got a DTE, a Ford, or consumers. I mean, you post a job and customer service, you post a job 2 hours later, you got over 200 applicants. And technically, the recruiter's supposed to go through all applicants and review all of their resumes. So again, it can be very time consuming on a recruiter's behalf. So putting everything up front is very key. I hope I answered your question, Kim, or Takara, sorry. The personal information, again, I kind of mentioned, which is your address, phone number, email address. Again, there's no right or wrong way of doing it. What I like to do to eliminate and to optimize on space, what I would do is I put my name up top, and then on the footer, I'll put my phone number, the city, and then my email address. That's what I do. I recommend that way because it allows you to put more on the more on the front or the first page. Sorry. Again, no right or wrong way. That's just something that I recommend doing because, again, it generates more opportunity, more space for you to put all of the good stuff in there for you. All right. Again, I mentioned the objective. These are some of the examples. Again, this is optional. Me personally, this is pointless to put on there. Examples were seeking a position as an accountant. Accountant 1, like, we know that you want a job. I mean, we know this. We know that you are seeking a full-time job, especially if you apply to the position, you already understand that it's a part-time or a full-time position. So yeah, if you want to put it, you can. Again, to me, to optimize on space and important information, I think that this is something that can be eliminated from one's resume. The summary of your qualifications, it could be called profile, it could be called qualifications or highlights. But this should be tailored to the job that you're applying for. All right. You have to be very mindful of the position that you're applying for. One resume is not a fit-all resume. You have to tailor your resume to the company, to the position. So you may have multiple resumes. You may have a customer service that highlights more of your customer service. You may have an executive position or a teaching position that you want to highlight more information on. So there's no such thing as a generic resume that is fit for everything. It's very important that you create, and take the time to establish different resumes for different positions, okay? Again, your education, it's very, I want to mention one thing before I'm sorry, just thought about it. In your personal information, do not put your full address, okay? Again, I repeat, Do not put your full address. Put your city and your state. You can put your zip code, that's fine. But you don't know who is getting a hold of your resume. And you don't want no one popping up at your house. You don't want no one sending you anything. I mean, I've seen and heard so many horror stories of people getting hold of a resume because they found them, whether they be attractive on both sides, and they started stalking them and they started doing certain things. Do not put your full address. Only put your city and state, okay? You can put your phone number, that's fine. You can block somebody, you can change the number if something happened like that. But you don't want anyone knowing where you reside until you actually get the job. Then, of course, you get that information to your employer. But again, you never know who is looking at your resume, especially if you're dropping it off, especially if you're handing it out and saying, hey, listen, if you see anything, please give them my resume. You want to make sure that you are protected in all ways. And I understand that you're looking for a job, but just remember not to put your full address. Just put your city and state. All right, education. You can definitely list your expected graduation date. You can also, list your certifications or your minors as well. Again, put it in chronological order, because I don't want to know that you had a bachelor's or an associate's first if you ended up getting your doctorate. I want to know that you got your doctorate. I want to know that you got your master's, your bachelor's. Or if you don't have any type of degree, I want to know that you have your high school diploma or your GED. And I want to know that up front. So again, reverse chronological order is very, very key. Your work experience. Again, you do not have to list all of your jobs. Let's be honest, people, some of us have left employers on bad terms. All right. Whether it was our attendance, whether it was a situation occurred, like we don't know. But if they're going to speak negatively about you, don't set yourself up for failure and put the employer on the application or on your resume. And if you're worried about gaps, again, you can explain why there was a gap in employment. Again, in your cover letter. But again, do not set yourself up for failure. Again, if you left on bad terms, do not put them on your resume. Now, when you're filling out the application, in the background, if they ask you to list all of your employers within the last 7 years, now you can do that. But see, then you have to understand that legally that an employer cannot give a reason on why you were terminated. They can only verify whether you were employed at that particular time. Now, you will find some people that try to be sneaky and say, well, what was the reasoning? Would you hire them? Are they eligible for rehire? That's a nice way of saying, do you want this person back? All right. So some employers will actually give that information and say, well, no, they're not eligible to come back. But then that's a red flag. So you got to be careful. You got to know. And I don't recommend you asking anyone the type of questions that they're going to ask for verification, because 90 or 80% of the times they don't even really call, especially when you are already at the background stage. You're not calling to verify employment. They can actually pull all that information up in the background. I do have a question I'm just going to read really, really quick. Should you cater your education section to the job as well to avoid eliminating? I feel overqualified based on having higher training. Yes, I've experienced that firsthand. Very, very good question. The question was on the floor by Ms. Kim's, basically saying, should you cater your education as well based upon the job to avoid being eliminated? Because some individuals may feel that you are overqualified if you do have a doctorate, a master's, or even a bachelor's, depending on the job. Yes, you should. It's unfortunate, but you should. Me personally, I have my master's in human resource development or human resource management. But when I was in the market of looking for an opportunity, by me having my master's degree, they was telling me that I was overqualified for HR generalist, HR recruiter, HR, whatever it was that I was applying for at the time, based upon me having a master's degree. Now they feel that if you do have a higher education, that you're going to expect more in terms of your salary, which is a true statement. You didn't go to school to make the same amount of money that you had when you had your high school diploma. You went to school to further your education and to become more marketable. So I found, me personally, that when I took off that I had a master's and just had a bachelor's, I actually got more phone calls because people are like, oh, you got a bachelor's, cool. And we can work with that. But in the interview, I would mention, oh, I did not put it on my resume. I do apologize, but I do have my master's degree. Or once I get to that level of negotiation, I'll definitely mention that I have a master's degree. So very, very good question. I mentioned, again, you don't have to include all of your employers. Yes, include the employer name and the city. We highly recommend using bullet points or paragraphs. Listen, I've seen this, and I should have given you all an example. But if you were a caddy, if you work in a golf course, and I see that you said, I collected balls, I carried a bag, and I reported on time for work every day. It's so much more that you've done, and you're not articulating what you have done. Don't give one word responses or answers or explanations. Don't say, if you're a basketball player, oh, I shot hoops or I dunked every now and again. Like, no, we want to know what you did. We want to know you went to practice. You spent this amount of time doing this. Like, explain. This is your opportunity to sell yourself. Like, this is an opportunity to present yourself. So you don't want to disqualify yourself because you couldn't think of how to articulate on what you done. I'm gonna give you all a website that's going to help you all as well. I'm gonna give it to you towards the end. That will help you all. Matter of fact, I'm gonna do it now. Just give me 2 seconds. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, this presentation. All right. This is a website. Hopefully you all can still see my screen. This is a website that was given to me when I was going to OU. My HR professor said, listen, gave me the same speech. Don't have one-liners, don't have one words and explaining. ONET, onetonline.org. That is the website. onetonline.org. I've been using this for years. So up top in the search menu, if you type in HR, okay, and you hit search, it's going to bring up certain HR job fields. You have your HR manager, a specialist, management, training, development, frontline, etc., payroll. Excuse me. If I click on HR manager, all right, it's going to give me a summary of what an HR manager, the duties of an HR manager. It's going to give me all of these different tools, okay? Now, titles is everything. Now, remember, in our introduction a few slides ago, we looked at skill set. So what type of skills do this individual need to possess? Basically, almost 99.9% of the jobs that you're going to apply for, you can find in ONET. And you'll be able to learn, okay, for this particular job, I need to be an active listener. So list it. If you don't know what your skill set are, if you haven't went to trade school, pull this website up. You utilize this website. Talk about the ability, your work activities. I communicated with supervisors at the bottom. work activities. This can actually be some of the bullet points in explaining some of the positions that you've done. So I advise others on legal regulations and compliance and matters. I advise or administrative compensation or benefit programs. Like, it gives you tools to use to put on your resume, and it makes it sound more professional. And even when you're stuck, you can go here and say, oh, well, I did active listening. I do that all the time. I did speak to different people. I did have judgment and decision making. I did read. I did do certain things. I did have to know about certain laws and regulations. And you can find all of this information on this website. It is a very, very, very useful tool. Again, I highly recommend you all looking at this website. For laughs and giggles, we're going to put something else in. We're going to say, all right, put in customer care. So we have a retail, animal care, hospitality. Let's just go to retail. And again, your task, you greeted customers, you recommended certain merchandise based on the needs and the desires of the customers. You competed with sale prices. You total purchases. Again, this is a tool that most people don't know about, but you have this as a tool now that you can utilize as far as helping you explain some of the duties that you have done in your career. All right. I truly, truly hope that was helpful for you all. I'm just going to go back to, all right. And I'm getting back to the portion that I was at. All right. So your work history, again, prioritize it in order, give a job description with the most current relative information. It says divide your work history into related experience and other experience. We kind of mentioned that already. Remember to list your internships. When you list your internships, it's experience, whether it was college, it was experience. And that's what most employers are going to look at. They're going to look and see what type of experience you have. So do not leave off your internships. It's very, very important. I got a lot of jobs before I started my company based off the internships that I had. All right, skills. I want you all to understand that there are soft skills and technical skills, okay? Your soft skills is going to be teamwork, analytical thinking, but your technical skills is going to be your Microsoft, your Excel, your PowerPoint, your QuickBooks, and etc. Now, when people ask what language skills you have, we live in America, and you are applying to a job that is probably 100% English. Don't put English as a skill set. We know you speak English. If you are applying to a position that requires you to be bilingual, then yes, put your experience, or I'm sorry, not your experience, but your language skill, being that you are bilingual in Spanish, Korean, and everything else. But you do not have to put that if you're applying for a job that does not require you to be bilingual. Okay? Again, that is optional. Don't waste your space in saying that, oh, well, my skill set is, my language skill is English. We kind of know that. So don't put that on there. All right, so your awards and activities. Again, and I'm kind of, if you kind of notice, when I was talking about this reverse chronological order, I'm just kind of going in order of some of the things. And I did mention that I was going to skip a few things but the presentation will be available online for you all to kind of go back, compare notes or take notes or etc. But if you were a member of a camp or organization, that's great. If you held any type of position, if you was a part of the Boys and Girls Club, that's wonderful. Typically, what I like to mention when you talk about your awards, try to mention awards that were job related. You won Employee of the Month for 2 years in a row. You won the most creative employee, the most developed employee, whatever it may be. Those are the type of awards that they are referring to. However, again, if you want a reward because you were a part of an organization, whether it be church, whether it be in your community, definitely mention it. It does not hurt. But I'm just letting you know that they do tend to look at your work awards and activities that you've done. All right. I mentioned your volunteer work. I don't discredit volunteer work, whether you're going feeding the homeless, helping, whatever it may be. You can definitely mention it. But again, knowing that the recruiters are confined to a particular time and reviewing so many resumes on a consistent basis, I'm not going to say the less the better, but having the work history is very, very important. And if you don't have a lot of work history, as I mentioned previously, then yes, kind of bring out your volunteer experience. I will also say this. Sometimes based on our name, our education, our skill set, and then our employment history or professional experience, sometimes we may have 3 or 4 jobs and the other job may run over to the next page and you may have like a little gap in between. So what I recommend you putting, if it's a break in like the bullet points, I recommend pushing it down to the next page. That way someone has to flip over the next page just to read 2 or 3 little lines. But typically if you have 2 jobs in that bottom half, and that third job is almost at the tail end where it's going to run over, just push it down. And then again, not add fluff, but if you do have volunteer experience, start putting that information in there to fill it up, because again, you don't want them to flip over to one page and like, oh, it's just one job here. Try to make it worth their time to actually flip the next page and actually read it. I do recommend this as well. When you are, as I recommend putting your name, email address, where you reside in the footer, make sure you also include the page numbers as well. Don't just say page 1, but use the option where it says page 1 of 2 or page 1 of 3, because it gives them a clue, idea that, hey, there's more pages to this resume. I got a quick chat in here. It says, can you put the website for the resume assistant in the chat? Yes, I will. It is ONET online. Org. There you go. All right. As I mentioned earlier, and I'm not going to cover this, I'm going to let you all see it just for a few seconds because I kind of mentioned this. There's no one specific way to format your resume. So don't be upset because your resume don't look like somebody else. Again, there is no one way to format a particular resume, okay? There's multiple templates. I mentioned a few slides ago. So again, you have your different options for that. Just for laughs and giggles, I am going to kind of skip back just to show, because I know some people came in on late. These are a few resumes. This is one way. This is another way. And here is one way that Indeed looks at your resume. Again, no right or wrong way, just based on preference. All right. We kind of mentioned your references already. Again, I'm just put it up in the screen that way you all can see it for a few seconds. We did kind of mention this already. I will say, when people do ask for your references upon request, it is ideally, preferably, just 3 people. You don't got to get everybody in your top 5 or top 10, everybody in your phone book. Make sure that the individuals that you are putting down know that they may be getting a phone call. The worst thing you want someone to do is pick up the phone and then be like, "Who are you? What? Why are you calling? Okay, yeah, I know them." Give them a heads up. Let them know, hey, look, you may be getting a phone call, or even ask for their permission. Hey, is it okay to put your name down as a reference? That way they are aware of what's going on. Some people say don't ask your family members, don't ask your friends, but consider your employer, your professional, professor, clergy, and people you know, etc. Me personally, if you worked with your family members, put them on there. If you worked with your friends, because at the end of the day, we all establish friendship with our coworkers. So put them on there. Anyone that's going to speak highly of you, put them on there. So you want to, in formatting, and I'm almost done. I think I only have one more slide. You want to use one font size, all right? You don't want to use Times Numeric and then Georgia. You want to make sure you use the same font when creating your resume. Now, of course, you want your name to stick out. So yes, your name may be, in a size 14 or 16, however. Again, it's based on preference, but the content, the body of everything else needs to be on the same page. I do recommend highlighting and putting in bold your title, not necessarily your employer name, but your actual title, because some employers look for your title because it would give them a clue of what your responsibility was. All right. So this goes and talks about the length of your resume. And I kind of mentioned this earlier about how if your resume is a page and a half, make sure you have some meat to it. So add certain things, certain activities that you've done. You want to make sure your spacing is all accurate as well. You don't want to make sure that between your employers, you want to make sure it's either double space or single space. But you don't want to have someone that is single space and then you're trying to fill up the space, so you double space it or triple space it to fill it up. Believe it or not, although people that are in recruiting world and looking at the resume, they want to look at structure, because again, they don't see you, they don't know who you are, they don't know any of that. So make sure your alignment is correct. Make sure that all of your dates are to the left. Make sure if that's how you do it. Make sure that things are not all over the place. Your name here and then your address is over here. You want to center everything if that's how you do it. So alignment is very, very key. Your presentation is very, very key. You don't want to have an employer centered and then your next employer on the right alignment or the left alignment. You want to make sure that everything is either going to be left, center, or to the right. Now, again, there's no right or wrong way, but your standard is to your left. All right. So and then people would tab over and space as far as the dates or even their title or employer name. But you want to make sure your alignment is key. Okay. So to sum everything up, I hope I didn't go over my time. To sum everything up, you want to make sure that your resume is meant to get you an interview. Yes, a resume is required in 90%, 100% of jobs. They want to see your resume. You want to make sure that you use your, again, you want to make sure you use your personal information. Objective is optional. Excuse me. Your education and your work history. Make sure you have those elements. Never include any false information. If you are not a supervisor, don't put that you supervise people, all right? Because they will check, all right? If you only work there for 6 months, don't tell people that you worked there for 2 years. Don't put that on your resume. Make sure you proofread it. Make sure there's no grammatic errors in there. Even though, and I see this a lot, oftentimes we read, or sometimes people type and write how they speak. But it is a difference. So you want to make sure that you have someone that can proofread it. You can use certain websites, Grammarly, I believe it is, where you can type in a phrase and then make sure that all your commas and punctuations, consistency is important. If you did not end your sentence, your bullet point with a period, in your next employer, don't put periods. Excuse me. Make sure it is consistent. Okay. If you're using punctuation at the end, make sure it is consistent. I just thought about something as well and it just slipped my mind. I do apologize for it. But make sure there's no typos. Again, never falsify on a resume. Tailor your resume to the particular job that you are applying for. Okay. That's very important. Use a cover letter to sell yourself and to add value to your resume. All right. These are some of the most important points. Again, they don't know who you are. Format is key. Your titles are key. And if you have those, the myth buster. I'm so sorry. That's what I want to talk about before I close. Give me two more minutes and I'm done. A lot of people say, look, make sure you use keywords. Okay. That is the biggest myth buster. Okay. I have used several software application tracking systems. Okay. There is no way that we can put in keywords and say, okay, this person have keywords, then we're going to look at them first. No, that is borderline discriminatory. Okay. Now, what they do have, now I want people to be very, very clear and rest assured. What they do have is this. They have a system where in the application tracking system, if you're hiring for an HR director or manager or whatever it may be, now they have the option and the ability to put in keywords as far as what they're looking for, right? So if your resume has those keywords in it, what it would do is on Indeed, on ZipRecruiter, the employer, when they post a job, they'll say, these employees may match your requirement. It's because your resume may have a keyword, but they're going to invite you to apply to the position. It does not guarantee you a seat or even that they would look at you because, again, they're only inviting you to apply to the position. But if you do not have any of those keywords, because we don't know what the keywords may be. So it's very important to look at the job description and to make sure that you include something in the job description. Make sure your resume is tailored to what they're looking for. That way you can get an invite, but there's no way if you don't use a keyword that you won't get it. opportunity. If you do use the keywords, it's not going to guarantee you anything as well. So that is a very, very myth buster. Everyone says, oh, you got to have the right keywords. It's not true. That is discriminatory. And an employer cannot discriminate on who applies to the position. So don't be afraid if you don't know what the keywords are. Okay? Don't be afraid if you don't know what the keywords are. You do your part and allow your resume to stick out. To gain the attention of other people from the recruiters, yeah, you can definitely shoot them an email. You can call, hey, I applied to the position, just want to do a follow-up. And then that way they will start looking for your name. All right. So those are some of the tools and tricks and kind of addressing the myth buster. I can't stand when people say, oh man, you got to make sure you have a whole bunch of keywords in there. No, if I did or didn't, that's not going to guarantee me a seat. It's not going to guarantee me anything because they're only going to invite you to apply. It's back in your court, because if I did apply to the position and someone had the keywords, well, guess what? We both in the same boat. And the employer, the interviewer, does not know who had these keywords because, again, that is discriminatory. So even if someone did invite someone to the position, we still have to look at their resume because it's not going to highlight, oh, this person had sales on there and yeah, I'm about to look at them. No, that is discriminatory and that is against the law. So just wanted to address that really quick with you all. This is the website for O.Net. I did put it in the chat, but you can see it as well on here. It is www.onetonline.org. All right. And if you need any further advice on resume, interviewing, HR, again, I've been in human resources for about 12, 13 years now. I know the tricks and trades, and I will definitely give you the blueprints, the secrets that most people will not. I want to make sure that we help each and every one of you prepare yourselves to embark on new territory and into your new careers. Again, this is my contact information. This is my direct information. If you call this number, you will get me, okay? You can definitely email us at HR, even if you want me to just take a quick look at it. Email HR, my team will take a look at it and give you any advice. Just let me know that you came from the expo, okay? This is a service that we normally charge, but I've been invited and I wanna make sure that those that have attended or have any questions that we do take care of them free of charge. So please email us, let us know that you came from the expo, and we will service you in any way capacity that we can. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I do turn it back over to the presenter or to Cara. Thank you. Do we have any questions? Please feel free to unmute or type in the comment section if you have any questions.
I'm sitting here talking, y'all. I'm so sorry. I was still on mute and nobody heard me. But I was saying, we do thank you so much, Dujuan, for everything that you've done today, coming on and presenting, offering us the knowledge and making yourself available to us, even outside of this platform. We addressed all of the questions in the chat moving forward as we went through the presentation. If anything arises, we do have your contact information, your PowerPoint, as well as today's recording will be available on our website for future use and for those who were unable to attend. So again, thank you so much. And if anyone that's in this meeting is available tomorrow, we will be talking about job searching in trade school tomorrow at 3 p.m. on the Zoom platform. That information will be available for you to view, as well as the other seminars that we have scheduled for the month on our website. That is www.smashfoundationinc.org. And you can also check us out on Facebook at S.M.A.H Foundation. Thank you so much for your time, everyone, and you all enjoy the rest of your Saturday.